gonna call the meeting to order, Tuesday, not Tuesday, Monday, I'm reading the top of this. This is what it was. The special meeting of the Easton Housing Authority, Monday, June 23rd, 2025. Roll call, Commissioner Chris Sheedy.
Here.
Commissioner Tebow.
Here.
Commissioner Burrows.
Here.
Commissioner Pigwin.
Here.
And Commissioner Dennis Sheedy is present. And for the record, we are being recorded by ECAT. Agenda item number 1, April 8th, 2025 minutes for approval.
I will make a motion that we approve the minutes of April 8th, 2025.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Chris Sheedy, a second by Commissioner Burrows. Any discussion regarding the April 8th minutes?
I had something I found. Hold on, there was 2 sets of minutes. A lot of reading. Okay, yeah, there it is. So, yes, on number 11, under the Executive Director's Report, page 3, I was just, one thing's kind of a preference, and the other thing was, I thought, a misnomer. Where it says Director Steiger noted that former commissioner, whatever, as opposed to past, that's just preference. So, and then the
former?
yeah. And then it says, you thank the maintenance staff for staying on top of the turnarounds. I would think it's turnovers. I don't know. I've never heard them referred to as turnarounds, so I figured that was a goof.
Yes, it's inside baseball. Seriously, you
That one I didn't know.
what's that?
I did not know that.
You know, it's what, but it's not what the public would read.
Any other concerns regarding the April 8th minutes? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That is unanimous. Agenda item number 2, the May 20th, 2025 minutes for approval.
I'll make a motion that we approve the May 20th, 2025 minutes.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Christian Sheedy, a second by Commissioner Burrows. Any discussion regarding the May 20th minutes? Meeting minutes.
I had a couple things. Sorry. Page 1, under number 1. Just where it's Commissioner Christian Sheedy motion to accept and needs to be inserted on, place on the year-end, place on file the year-end reporting financial statement.
Yep.
And then we go to page 3, number 11 on page 3, it reads, it's the third sentence. The contract with Taunton is I would assume 3-year.
Oh, yeah.
And then under number 12, the substantial and final certificate of completion, not payments, I'm assuming. It's like number 12.
Yeah.
Says the project is almost done and they are picking up screws and nails. And then the next sentence, the substantial and final payments. Maybe it was supposed to be payments, but I thought it might meant to be certificates of completion. I don't know.
I think it's a substantial, yeah. We're assuming they're gonna be at the same time. We haven't got anything yet.
But it's not payments, it's certificates
Right.
of completion.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought. And I think that's the end of me being picky.
Former Commissioner Whittup would be very proud of you. It's good
She'll
to
have
have.
to watch the.
It's good to have someone who, I mean, because I read whatever I think it should say.
always wanted to be a proofreader. Might be one of my little side jobs eventually.
Any other discussion or concerns regarding the May 20th minutes, meeting minutes? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That is unanimous. Agenda item number 3, Section 8 Appeal Payment Standards effective June 1st, 2025, to make them consistent with the Taunton Housing Authority.
They're managing our program. I know these were the exceptions in standards that just got passed. Wasn't it with Boston and all of them, they just approved them? But just those towns?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I'm not positive on that
So,
though.
in talking with Taunton, we do ours typically at 110%, so it was consistent with that, so we kept them at that. And they want to do them on lease-ups and re-examinations for those towns only,
So which towns only?
the ones that are all listed.
Oh, all of them?
Yes,
Okay.
yep, those are the ones that were in question before. And we're working still on the admin plan, we should have that together very soon to try to keep it consistent with Taunton, to make it easier for staff to do everything the exact same way. And the way that Easton's done it for many years has been a little convoluted with the payment standards, and it's always a CMAP issue when it comes to how reviewing it, depending on who your rep is. Whether you had a recertification and you use the 2024 payment standard, but they want you to submit the 2025 with CMAP, but then your calculation's gonna be off because it's not the same payment standard.
All right, so these are, you normally do them at 110%.
Correct, and that's what these are at.
These are at
They're
110%.
calculated at 110. Our regular payment standards for small area FMR are 110%.
So other than it being in line with Taunton, it's not truly different from what you do?
Correct. Correct.
And this has been, I've received different information on this, that, so Foxborough Housing Authority is going to adopt their payment standards. I was always under the understanding that we needed to contact Foxborough, ask them what their board approved statement were, and then use that. Is that how you understood it?
Only if you're a small area FMR like we are.
Okay.
We're a small area FMR, so typically what's gone on is they've had to contact us to get our current payment standards.
Right.
Right. So Foxborough, I don't think is a small FMR.
Okay. It's been confusing. I've had HUD reviewers tell me both ways.
Yes, it depends on who's doing the review, so.
Okay.
Most of these are pretty large cities close.
Mhm.
There's a couple really small ones,
Yeah.
Plainville and.
Well, and for instance, Taunton administers Stoughton as well with their Section 8 program.
And
And
are we in
Holbrook.
shortfall?
Yes,
Will this spread us at all?
it shouldn't. Our shortfall, I think when we discussed it last month, we anticipated about 80,000 or so. But that being said, it might not be. And we're gonna apply for the shortfall funding as
Yes,
well,
yeah.
so. I mean, it's really just a guessing game. They tell you to lease, and then all of a sudden it's put the brakes on. You don't have enough money, so,
We're going to adopt that policy that said first off is first back on.
that's part of the admin plan.
That's part of the
We're
admin
probably gonna have to do a special meeting in August just for that. Because we have to go out to public hearing still on that.
Approval of this, we can just say lump sum it, you don't need it all read
No,
individually.
I don't think that's necessary at all.
All right, then I will make a motion that we approve the Easton Housing Authority payment standards effective for 6/1/2025 for lease-up and re-examinations in coordination with the Taunton Housing Authority, or mirroring the Taunton Housing Authority's standards as
Yes.
listed.
We have a motion by Commissioner Chris Anshidi, a second by Commissioner Burrows. Any further discussion or concerns regarding the payment standards? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is unanimous. Agenda item number 4, May warrant in the amount of $277,702.58 for approval.
Make a motion, we approve the warrant for May 2025 in the amount of $277,702.58.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Burrows, a second by Commissioner Chris Sheedy. Any discussion or concerns?
The Anania Plumbing and Heating, are they your, have you contracted that out, or are they just the people you called?
No, they've been the ones that they've called on an emergency. Typically, they use McDonald. He hasn't
Okay.
been available, and a lot of this has been emergencies. The reason why the billing was February to May is because they were using QuickBooks for their invoicing, and it was going to my spam, so I wasn't getting them. And
Okay,
they were still coming out, and then they called and said, hey, you know, you haven't paid us, you're usually pretty good about that, and they were using a different system.
thank you.
And the big one for Aqua Point at,
The
what was it?
27,000,
Yeah,
you'll see in the financial, we actually put that in the budget, we were aware of that.
okay, so
Yeah.
that wasn't a surprise.
No, not at all. They gave it to me last September. And we knew it was gonna be in the budget. It's systems that are gonna start failing because the system's already 10 years old. It's under the extraordinary in the next, in your financial statements. Water treatment plant rehab, 28,000.
Also came in a little less than
A
expected.
little less, yes.
Wow.
I know, that doesn't happen very often.
Any other questions or concerns regarding the May warrant? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is unanimous. Agenda item number 5, the financial statements for April 2025.
I will make a motion that we receive the financial statements and place on file.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Christian Sheedy, a second by Commissioner Burrows. Kathy, anything you'd like to point out?
I know Chris had asked at the last meeting about the other income, line 3690, that's the laundry. The laundry money goes into Northeastern Savings when we collect the quarters from the machines, so that's where that goes.
Okay.
Being the first month of the budget, yeah, there's not a lot to report except that we did spend the 28,000 so far. But that will be on May. We started looking into the trucks, so,
Yeah, I was curious, so we're doing another truck.
yeah, we were gonna get rid of, the dually truck and get a different truck. Because it still has pretty good value and only one of the maintenance guys can drive it.
Is that close to the trade-in you got on the other one?
Yeah, we would trade that one in for the money back to buy a new one.
Any other questions or concerns regarding the April financial statements? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? That's unanimous. Agenda item number 6, summer meeting schedule discussion for approval. Historically, we take July and August off. I think you just mentioned that we'll probably be meeting at some point in August for,
Just for the administrative plan, because we're behind on that, and, we're trying to get it together and get it submitted so that it's cohesive with what it needs to be, and we have to go out to advertise for 45 days. That being said, it's looking mid-August if people are available. So we could do the public hearing and the board meeting, and if it's a problem, we can just do the public hearing, and we can wait until the September board meeting to approve it.
I'm in favor of the, we recessed for July and August. I don't think we've ever made one summer since I've been here without not having at least one 10-minute meeting
Yeah.
to go over something, which is fine. I think, I know I look forward to it.
And
And I know you do
I'm
too.
sure
I
the
definitely
director.
do. I know Colleen Doherty, the director in Taunton, said she would come out and explain the changes going forward and why.
Depending on the day, I think we can absolutely make something work.
Yeah,
August is a little
I
bit
wouldn't
tricky, but
think it would be a
I'm
very long
flexible,
meeting.
yeah.
So there would be no, so we'd just be saying we're going to recess for July and
Unless we
August.
need a special.
And obviously, anytime you
Yeah,
need a
okay.
special, you reach out to Dennis.
All right. So you need a motion on that?
And any other discussion? We good with that? Dawn, you
Yeah,
good?
I'm good. Yeah.
I don't know if we need a motion.
I don't remember.
What do our bylaws say? Do they say that we have a meeting every month or does it? Oh,
Probably does.
I don't remember
It-
truthfully, but we've always gone into recess.
Yeah, so I'll make a motion that we not have our meetings in July and August and that we will be willing to set up special meetings for any business that needs to be done.
I'm second.
Motion by Commissioner Tebow, a second by Commissioner Burrows. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Agenda item number 7, grounds and garden policy draft with requested changes for approval. So I understand there's been tenant input, you've met, you've discussed, you've come up with a policy that the folks are good with and you're good with and maintenance is good with and
Not everybody is good with it, but
can't.
we only had 4 written responses, and those are in there. Yeah, it's a tough call, but
I'll make a motion that we approve the grounds and garden policy.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Tebow, a second by Commissioner Burrows, Commissioner Chris Anchidi. Sorry about that. Any further discussion?
I do want to just say that I thought this was a matter of process, and I knew everybody wasn't going to be happy. But I really appreciate you going through that process. As the owner, you have 100%, or we have 100% right to say we're going to do whatever we're going to do, as long as we're not violating people's rights. But people have been heard, you've made some accommodations, and again, thank you very much for
Thank
the
you.
process.
I did have a couple of questions. You got a 4-foot height on the shepherd hooks, and, you know, so I'm going around, I maybe found 1 or 2, 4 foot, everything else is above that. Was there a reason for the 4 foot?
if they tip over, if they're taller and they crash into a window, they're gonna break the glass, or they have more propensity to tip over the taller they get with the weight of the plants.
I think the standard ones are usually around 5 feet, not that the 4
Yeah.
foot can't order, but I think this kind of the standard Home Depot versions are around the 5 foot range.
And the other is, some people are allergic to flowers, we've heard in discussions, and if they're on the first floor, they don't want that, if they open their window, that plant right outside their window. I mean, we've heard a lot of different
A lot of
arguments,
different,
but that's why we thought.
Well, the
Not
other-
many people have the shepherd's hooks either.
I mean, this obviously will become policy, but if for some reason down the road, we need to tweak this a little bit, I mean, we can revisit it, I mean, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Just because, you know, things change or something, we forget something or something comes up, I mean, we can, you know,
Yeah.
amend it a little bit if I'm not mistaken.
Absolutely.
The other thing that wasn't addressed was the many perennial gardens, flower beds, shrubs that would, you know, as people move in, as the residents move in, they've inherited whoever had it before. A lot of them are being taken care of. So what's happening with those?
The perennials we're not gonna touch, those are in the ground, and as long as they're not invasive and they're lower growing, and they
Yeah.
didn't get trampled on when they did the siding and damaged, we've left them alone. Some of them, they've relocated to areas that didn't have any. They've dug some up and relocated some of
Yeah,
them.
because there's been a lot of concern, the residents, you know, what's gonna happen to my flower gardens, you know?
Yeah.
And nothing's being mentioned in here about it, so
Well,
could
it's
that be
tough
part of
to-
policy, or?
Yeah, it's tough to put that in there, because they're there, and it's yet to be seen what's gonna happen. I mean, when that person moves out, what if the other person doesn't wanna maintain that perennial? And it's tough. A lot of people can't get down on the ground to maintain them, and then they just assume that maintenance is going to. But if they're there now, and they're coming up, and some of them look lovely, truthfully, we're not gonna disturb them.
Thank you.
And I don't know that you can really make a policy on that.
It's complicated.
Yeah, that would be a tough.
We have many unattended gardens that were beautiful at one time.
They get out, yeah.
Then the person who cares for them either gets ill or moves out, and it becomes a.
I mean, growing up in the, you know, housing development, I always felt like everything was overregulated, but at some point, you almost need that because, you know, it gets out of hand.
I was just thinking on the shepherd's hooks, you're saying they're generally 5 feet. Is the 4-foot height given the foot to go in the ground?
No.
The 6
I haven't seen a 4-footer, to be honest
Okay.
with you. They're typically 5-footers. That's what I'm concerned that, that's why I made the comment, like, can you buy one that's 4 foot?
That they're 5 foot plus the
Yeah,
ground.
yes, yes.
And they're not all in front of windows. You know, there are other places around the property. So if they did tip over, they were not gonna break the window. There's
Yeah.
some of them, you know, some of them, you're right, they are. I just wonder if we could, I don't know, can you even buy 4 footers?
I don't know. I know the standard.
I have a couple at my house.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can.
I just know
Well, I mean,
standard
I
height is
know-
5 foot, and I'm not saying that there isn't a good valid
Well, we
reason
had
to
it
make
at
4
3,
foot.
and people didn't like the 3 because they couldn't see them. But then we have the others that don't want them outside their window, and again, we heard all different sides.
Would you object to making that 5? 5 foot? So it's more to the standard?
The only reason it came to my attention is because somebody had mentioned it to me that they are allergic to flowers and they wouldn't want something like that outside their window. So then we're gonna justify where you can put your shepherd's hook. I mean,
So-
that's the only reason why it even
It's
came
tough.
up.
Or if it was her window,
I don't
or
know.
their window that would go in front of their window, they wouldn't put it there, right?
It's a tough call.
Well, they wouldn't put it there, but somebody else might decide to.
And then if we get a complaint about it, what do we do with it at that point? There aren't that many shepherd's hooks that
I
are
was just gonna say, I
overly
mean,
concerned.
in reality, if it's not bothering anybody, you guys like gonna go up there with a measuring tape and, you know, rip it out of the ground. So I think keeping the policy what it is, and if it becomes a problem, then we adjust
We'll
it. But at the
address it,
same time, if it's 4 foot and they got a 5-footer, it's a problem, you can ask them to take it down.
The only other note I had was, you know, as far as decorations and around the building, banners and whatever, US flags are allowed, right?
Yes, they are.
Any other questions or concerns regarding the garden policy? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That is unanimous. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 8, fish number 088080, window and siding change order number 5 in the amount of $682.50 for approval.
That was just for the damaged wood as they found as they were taking off siding.
Damaged wood being rot or
Rot,
was
yeah,
it?
rot under some of the areas that they had to replace the plywood before they put the siding back up.
No,
Which for 10 buildings really wasn't too bad.
no termites or ant
No.
infestations?
No.
or-
Nope, just
Just,
mostly moisture.
just doing the math on this, I mean, I don't know if it's ready for discussion, I can hold off, but
That's fine.
just doing the math on this, you know, the materials are around like, you know, $1,150, so, I mean, realistically, the labor is $7,500 for, you know, that little bit of work, so it seemed a little pricey to me, but
Prevailing wage.
they didn't break it down, so it's kinda hard to see that.
Yeah, because they break it down on prevailing wage rates, and they have to submit payrolls to me on a weekly basis as to what that person's title, because some of the guys they'd actually break it out as they were billed as a laborer that day for that work, or they were billed as, I forget what the other wording was,
Yeah.
depending on what they had their guy.
I'm not kidding, I run into this all the time,
Yep.
so I mean, it's definitely very common.
Yep.
It didn't seem outrageous, but it just kind of struck me a little bit, you know, and then, you know, did somebody inspect it, did they look at it?
Yes, they do.
You know,
The
how was
architect
that
was
stuff?
out,
Okay.
EOA Kelsey, we have Sean Keating, he's our rep at EOA Kelsey, great guy.
Oh, so somebody was on top of it?
Yeah, no, they were out. Maintenance walked around with them too, so,
Okay.
yep. And a lot of this is already
And you
in
have
the
to kinda do
original
it as you
scope
go.
of the work, and
Okay.
you can't determine until you're going around what
And you have
was
to kind of
done.
fix it while you're doing it, you
Yeah.
can't ignore it, but.
Right,
As long as somebody took a look at it, and I just kind of wanted to make that comment of the, you know, basically the labor into that was, you know, a little over $7,500.
If the breakdown's right on page 2, sheathing, framing, insulation.
Yeah, but it's price per square foot, and that's what I'm saying, so like that square foot, you know, so that sheathing, that total for the square foot of sheathing they did was $709, and that's on the high end. And they got $5,160 as a total. You know, the framing, came up to $125. That's at, you know, a more expensive, you know, place that I priced it, that's not Home Depot or Lowe's. And then, the insulation was $308, and it's, you know, a little over $2,000, so that was kind of that $7,500 labor difference. And I get it, I mean, I'm not, you know, trying to knock it, but as long as somebody took a look at it and it was done properly, you know.
yeah, before any of these can be brought before the board, they have to be approved by,
Okay.
DHCD, the architect,
Okay.
and then us, and then the final finance.
Because it's easy enough, somebody comes by and covers it up with siding and go, oh, I had to replace this entire wall
Right.
with, you know, sheathing insulation, and, you know, nobody looks at it.
Mhm.
I'm used to seeing that though. I'm sure they pad it, you know, 2 men, 8 man hours. They'll-
Yeah.
They allow them to pad some.
They are allowed to
Yeah,
pad
Yeah.
it. Overhead and.
yes,
Well, that
Profit.
part, that's official, but what I'm saying is that usually they have to estimate how long it takes. That's what I'm used to seeing. How many people would be working and for how long?
Yeah, there wasn't much of a breakdown, I guess, is my thought process, but it didn't shock me.
But it's one of the smallest change orders so far.
Yeah.
and it still came in under what the change orders were allowed on this job, truthfully.
Really? Well,
I know.
that's a whole nother,
Again, it wasn't the contractor on this job, it was definitely the architect.
yeah, no, I've seen that many times.
Yeah, the contractor did a great job.
I will make a motion to approve change order number 5 for project number 088080 in the amount of $8,682.50.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Christian Shady, a second by Commissioner Burrows. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is unanimous. Agenda item number 9, the executive director's report. Are the septics on Barrows and Day, they're failing, is that?
Yeah, they're old. They were on the capital improvement plan. They've been on there for quite a few years. So we just fished them. And we're still having problems down Chandler Way with breakthrough. The same problem we had when they did the job and they had to come back out and remedy it. They don't know if it's an outflow problem from the system. We don't think it is because it wasn't in the past. So Mike Carter did come out and take a look at it when he was out doing the test holes. We haven't heard back from him yet, because that was just on Friday, so.
Didn't they run cameras and everything else down there?
Yeah, for tree roots. That
There was trees, weren't there roots in there?
No, this was the new system we just did at Chandler Way. That's a new one.
For a big chunk of change.
Yeah, it was like
When did that get done?
250,000.
When
2021 it was finished, November. And there was breakthrough then, and they made them add more sand, and they tested it, passed Title V, and then they were done with it. That was SciTech. We had a lot of problems with that contractor.
And I'm not suggesting it's these houses, but do we pay attention to how many people are in the houses?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The only
I
reason I
mean,
say that is,
the three-bedroom homes.
you know,
Yeah.
I had a customer that had a rental property, and he goes, "This is a two-bed, you know, that's a two-bedroom, you know," and ultimately, there's 15 people living there in a two-bedroom apartment. It's obviously overwhelmed to septic, so it fails. You
I
know?
think a lot of the problem with Chandler Way is it's built on wetlands.
If you go down, if it's
It's a
any
swamp.
type of rain, there's a river running down there.
Yes,
And it ends at Chandler Way,
yes,
comes down that hill.
yep. Because they built it up, because it's
Yeah.
all wetlands there. And
But
they
I'm
built
talking,
it.
if it comes down Route 106
Yeah.
too, there's a river.
Yep.
And
But this is when it was dry,
Yeah.
and we hadn't
Which
had
is
a lot of
scary.
rain. And Dan went to mow, and he's like, "Yeah, we're still getting breakthrough," because he's been monitoring it since last
Yeah.
year. And they're like, "No, it was fine. We've had rain." And then this year, we had Joe Hardenberg come out. He's like, "Well, Mike Carter's going to be out. Let's get him to take a look." So I have a feeling it's still breakthrough, like we were getting
what's
before.
breakthrough?
It's there's not
Seeping
enough
over.
sand.
Yeah,
And
it's not
stuff.
draining.
Yeah, it's not draining it properly.
Either that, it's been designed, improperly, but usually when they do the perk test and all that stuff, they get that in, they usually over-engineer everything.
Yeah.
But what's weird is you can have 15 bathrooms in a house, but it's the amount of bedrooms you have.
Yeah.
Nowadays they
These
do
all
it-
have one bathroom.
Yeah, and now they're doing it by, like even if you have a room that's an office with no closet in it, they consider it a bedroom.
Yeah.
But
So
it
just
is
monitoring that.
notorious that housing authority property is built on swamps.
Yeah.
Like, yes.
So when you go to do the septics, you put it up to bid for folks or whatever, or do you have a company that you just kind of work with exclusively?
No, this septic was already done. This
No, I'm
is-
talking about for Eisenhower and.
Oh, this is the architect. So the
what date sheet,
architect was
sorry.
assigned by UHLC, Mike Carter. He's great. We've worked with him several times. I think Chrisanne would agree. He's a very
He's very good.
capable architect. He'll come down. They hired a company to do test holes so he could see what he needed to design for the systems.
Yep.
And then he'll be responsible for putting the bid packets together and going out to bid.
I got you.
Yeah. And I have a lot of faith in him. He did not do Chandler Way last time. That was Graves Engineering, who did our wastewater treatment plant. But they changed architects mid-septic down at Chandler Way. We had Don Graves and Chris do this, did a great job, and then we got a different architect, same firm. We weren't too happy with him,
Gotcha.
so.
Thank you for the backstory.
Any other questions or concerns regarding the executive director's report?
The 5 painting companies, is any of them have you used before? No?
No, we actually went to Fernandes, because we're there often, took a few of the cards and talked to the paint guy there, and said, these are the guys you want to contact. So, the $2,800 one, I want a little more information. The other guys gave us, we're gonna do this to the doors, inside, outside, and do the trim. The $2,800, I said, I want all doors listed, and I want trim
Yeah, the
listed
devil's
on
in
the
the details
proposal.
on those.
So we'll see.
What
A
they're
lot of
using
times
for paint.
they'll come in low and then they get here and they go, oh, you want us to paint this and that? Oh, that's another, and they double the price.
So
You
these
wanted
are,
to actually coat the door?
Huh? Yeah, right, paint it?
Well-
Or you want me to take the old paint off first?
Also pay attention to the number of coats that they're putting on.
Yeah.
So if you're doing a change of color and stuff like that, you might need more than one coat.
Yeah,
so you,
Because that's
these
where
are
they
just
hit
basic quotes, not something you put out and said,
yeah, no, Dan called and said, this is what we have, come on down, take a look, this is what we want done. They're all the same exact steel doors, and we want the trim paint. The trim's fine.
because at this point where you have the 3 quotes, you could actually put it together and say, all right, now you all need to bid on exactly the same thing. Because they're fabricating it based on what they're thinking is gonna, they're not being told this is exactly what we expect. So they're not bidding on,
You can
Like-
just
Well,
yeah, I
they
need
wouldn't
32
Exact
doors.
specs.
I need 32 doors, both sides, trim
Yeah,
one side.
and I want
That's right,
double
yeah.
coat, and I want Benjamin Moore paint, and I want it covered with whatever, enamel, just really specific, because then there won't be any, I mean, there still could be problems, but I always found that you had to really button it down as much as you
Well,
could.
the other 2 proposals had that on there. The $2,800 one did not.
So that's why I'm saying if you put it back out and based on what the 2 that were most similar said, all right, everybody bid on this.
Did the other
Okay.
2 proposals match? You
Excuse
said-
me?
Essentially,
you said
yes.
2 proposals,
What was
correct?
the differences?
Did they match in what?
Yeah, the one of them was 4,500, the one in the middle.
No, I mean, as far as the
Yes.
work being done, they were both gonna
Yes.
do the same amount of coats, same
Mhm.
material?
One was more, it was Pro, it's more of a franchise chain. The middle one was
And
Jose,
they're quoting you prevailing wage.
I don't know.
Well,
I'd
they
have to look
gotta
at that.
put that in there too.
Yeah, I would just make sure that you have the number of doors and kind of what they're doing on it before
If
accept
it's,
one.
if it's a self-employed type guy, he doesn't have to, he owns and he's doing the work.
Correct.
Yeah.
And yeah, certificate of insurance and all that good stuff.
Oh, yeah, that we always, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
I don't know, I always grabbed a few quotes and then I put it together so that it met exactly what I was looking for
Mhm.
and what maintenance was looking for, and then I kind of put it back out there and said, all right, this is what I need specific quotes on.
Well,
And I want them by July 6th.
Well, vice versa, it works as a contractor end of it too. The more detailed he is, that way if there is something different, he can say, well, this is not part of my
Exactly.
estimate.
Right.
When they're kind of vague, it's,
You
Unless it was
wishy-washy.
included.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't, yeah.
right, depending on which way that goes.
Any other discussion or concerns regarding the executive director's monthly report?
Kathy's real happy she put that in the director's.
I am.
She says the great you.
We have the motions, right? Put it on file?
No,
No?
nope.
I would entertain a motion to accept and put on file.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Christian Sheedy, a second by Commissioner Burrows. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. You left the people out.
I know, that really was, this is so crazy. My error.
Are there any concerns, ladies? It's open to the public. Should you want to make a comment or anything?
Don't be shy.
I have a question.
Yep.
You're talking about, policy, you know, for the gardens. Is there going to be like a handbook or something that each apartment is gonna get so that they know?
We'll give everybody copies of policy.
Yeah.
But there already was a handbook. At the time you lease up, everybody got a handbook, but we have,
Yeah, but I
we need
mean-
another one.
I mean, things change, this is,
And we'd have to update the handbook, so
Yeah.
this, the copy of the policy will be posted.
Yeah. No, because there's still a lot of people in here that don't even know what the policy is, and they're not following it.
There are a lot too that do know, and, well, we do post the policies.
No, I'm just saying.
Easy to ask for forgiveness.
But, you know, a lot of it is, I think that
But
they.
you know yourself, we go door to door, the air conditioner policy, everybody's house put it on, everybody's door, and we
Yeah.
still have people say, no, I didn't, never got it. And they install their own. So we do, you know. Yeah, we'll notify everybody.
Any other concerns? Hearing none. Next meeting date? Looking September 9th, are we away? How about September 16th? Are we away then?
No, we're back on the 12th.
What's that, a Tuesday?
Tuesday the 16th, yep.
Fine with me.
We all good with that? Kathy, you good with that? So our next meeting, ladies, will be Tuesday, September 16th, 5 o'clock, right here. With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Christian Sheedy, a second by Commissioner Paquin. Any further, all in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, we're not gonna discuss that.
Everybody have a wonderful
Opposed?
summer.
That's unanimous.